welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael.
And I'm Molly.
We have a great episode today with lots to talk about. So, Molly, ready to get started?
Yes, let's start with our dating dish. So, we found out this past week who the new Golden Bachelor, the first Golden Bachelorette is going to be, and it's Joan. And I feel like I was a little bit surprised about the news. I knew she was in the running of it, but I didn't know if they would choose Joan or Leslie. And so they decided with Joan. And I'm actually really excited to see her as the Golden Bachelorette. What are your thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think she's going to do a great job. I was a little bit surprised, like you said, with the choice just because she was out pretty early in the season. And I remember at the time when she left, everyone was rallying for her to become the next Golden Bachelorette if they were going to do that. But I think by the end of the season, it's kind of like I feel like a lot of seasons of Bachelor, Bachelorette, people do that with an early exit, where by the time the end of the season, there's just somebody who's so much more relevant on people's minds at that point that they all end up, not kind of forgetting about the person who they wanted to be earlier on. But I think it was a great choice. I feel like we're not too overexposed with her as we have been with maybe some of the Golden Bachelor cast of late, but I think she's going to do a great job. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm excited. And it will be coming in the fall. So just a few more months for that to air. And also in Bachelor news, we saw Ryan Sutter, who is wife or husband of Trista, who was the first Bachelorette ever in Bachelor Nation, had posted some cryptic Instagram messages about Trista being away, working on herself, or having a new opportunity. And so people were really speculating, like, what does this mean? Thinking at first that things weren't great with her or things weren't great with Ryan and Trista, but he cleared that up. And it's perhaps that she's on a show, but there's still no confirmation on what that is yet. But there were definitely some interesting messages he was sharing.
Yeah, this was really weird and cryptic on Mother's Day. This really all started where he was posting that he misses her, and it was all very weird and cryptic. But if they ever broke up, my belief in true love would just be completely shattered. So they better stay together for my sake, if nothing else. But I at first thought it was a show. And then when I really thought about it, I was like, ooh, that's so serious, the way that he said this, that it made me think it wasn't a show, that maybe she was in some sort of, I hate to even speculate after the Kate Middleton thing. Speculating about these things feels icky to me. But then when you actually brought up, or just earlier when we were talking, you brought up special forces. And I think that actually to me makes the most sense of any theory that I've heard, because I feel like the way that he worded it, special forces kind of fits in the sense that like she's kind of challenging herself and maybe trying to find herself in some way. And I feel like special forces is that type of show where you can do that. Like, yes, it's a reality show where she would be away and not have her phone or anything. But then also it's kind of like, he used the word opportunity came up. And so I feel like those type of verbiage like indicates that it might be a show. And that to me, kind of all of those clues fit special forces. So that's my theory that you gave to me.
I know. Yeah, I definitely believe it's probably a show. So I'm hoping maybe with Special Forces we'll get to see that whenever that airs, or when they give us the cast and who's on it. But as of now, we just can speculate what's going to happen. But also in some Bachelor Nation news, Colton Underwood and his husband Jordan Brown are expecting their first son together, which is very exciting. We know that Colton was previously a bachelor and now he's gay, so now he's a husband.
He's gay.
Well, yeah, he was always gay, but he came out as gay. But in The Bachelor, he was not gay. He wasn't saying that he was gay.
Yeah.
So it's exciting for him that he's found like gonna have a family now. So yay for him.
Yeah, no, so happy for them. Colton can be a little bit controversial when you think about some of the past actions, but Really happy for him. I feel like ever since he came out, he's been super open and honest, and it feels like a weight was lifted from him, and he's really being his true self now. And I was happy, so happy when he met Jordan, and then when they got married, and now having their first kid. I think that's really exciting that he's now able to live his true, authentic life.
Yes, for sure. Well, going into some not as exciting news, I would say. But Clay from this most recent season of Love is Blind, season 6, he now has a new girlfriend who his mom does not approve of. And we obviously know that Clay and AD were together in that season, and in the finale and the reunion, it kind of seemed like that door was still a little bit open. So now at least we know, like, AD has closed that. They're not together. But I'm curious what's going to happen now. I doubt they're going to last because whoever this new girlfriend is doesn't have his mom's approval. And I feel like that's pretty important. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but we just heard the news.
Yeah, so his new girlfriend is an OnlyFans model, which I feel like is probably a big part of the reason why his mother doesn't approve. We don't know that, but I feel like that's probably a pretty good guess. And yeah, I can't imagine that with his mom being so public about her disapproval, also, I feel like that really has to hurt the relationship. Even if it's not on his end, if I were her, I would feel like, oh my God, like, now not only does your mom not approve, but like she's not even pretending to approve. So if I were her, that I would feel some kind of way about that, I think. So we will see what happens there. But yeah, I can't imagine that this is a relationship long for this world.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. Also, given Clay's track record, it doesn't sound like it either.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But that's all for our dating dish this week.
All right, well, let's move on to our Bravo breakdown. So, to start things off here, we got the season 16 cast last week for Real Housewives of Atlanta. We had some breadcrumbs about the cast that we had heard throughout the weeks prior to that, but the full cast was officially announced. So, we knew already that Kenya Moore was officially returning. We also found out that Drew Sidora was returning. Now, those are the only two full-time cast members from season 15 who are coming back for season 16. Portia Williams, we already knew, was returning to the show. And now we have, it has been announced that Shimea Morton, who has been long-term on the show, kind of on and off as a friend of over the years, is now officially a peach holder for the first time. And Cynthia Bailey, who was a full-time from seasons 3 through 13, is now coming back as an official friend of the cast. And then along with all of those returning faces, we have 3 brand new faces joining the group. We have, let me find their names here, Brittany Eady, Kelly Farrell, and Angela Oakley are the 3 official. Now, we don't know if they're all full-time. I would guess at least 2 of them will be, but we don't know for sure whether all 3 will be. But they have started filming within the last week or so, so we will, I would assume, probably see this season either very, very end of 2024 or beginning of 2025. So looking forward to that.
Yes. For sure.
And then we have some news with Real Housewives of Orange County as well. So this is really interesting. So this technically was last week that this all began, but because we couldn't cover it then, I figured we would bring it up now. So Ryan, who is Jen Pedrante's husband, who Jen was the newbie last season on Orange County, has been tied to the Shohei Ohtani, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, gambling scandal with the Dodgers. So he is reportedly named in the gambling and theft scheme, and he is, so ESPN reported on May 8th that the Los Angeles Dodgers interpreter Ipe Mizura, I am just totally butchering all these names, I'm sure, was allegedly wired money to Ryan to pay his gambling debts. That same day, the U.S. Attorney's Office said that Mizura agreed to enter a guilty plea on 2 federal charges related to the theft of nearly $17 million from Otani's bank account. So Ryan's criminal attorney, Stephen Katzman, told ESPN that he is currently working with federal authorities. The outlet claimed that Ryan would receive immunity in return for his testimony. So we don't know exactly what's going on here, but this feels big. Like, this feels kind of like Jen Shaw-y. Now, obviously, Ryan is not the housewife, so in terms of the Bravoverse, this won't affect things nearly as much on, show-wise as Jen's scandal did on Salt Lake City. But they did pick back cameras up because Orange County had stopped filming a few weeks ago, and this all broke about, a week or two after that. So they have picked back up cameras. I don't know if it was just one scene that they filmed, but I know we saw a big group of them filming, and we don't know exactly, whether Jen filmed it all or whether it was just the other women talking about it. I don't know, but God, Orange County is going to be so good this year. We have got to cover it, Molly, when it returns, which should be later this summer. So there's just so much going on this season of OC. It just feels like it's nonstop. So I'm excited for it and curious to see how this scandal all unfolds.
Yeah, I haven't watched in the past season, so I'm now curious. After hearing about this stuff, I feel like I definitely will need to watch it this upcoming season, and we'll definitely share our thoughts.
Yes, for sure. Now, another scandal, unfortunately, in the Bravoverse. This was a former Southern Charm star, Kathryn Dennis, was just arrested today, which is Tuesday, May 21st, when we're recording this. She was just arrested for a DUI. Now, Kathryn she's had a lot of issues with alcohol in the past, and this is just really unfortunate to hear. And she's had this really nasty custody battle with her ex, Thomas Ravenel, and they've gone back and forth so much throughout the years with their kids. And so this is just really sad. And we know that Thomas is going to hold this against her and try to get full custody again. So it's just that's sad to hear. It was a 3-car accident that she was involved in, and it's just ugly. But hoping for the best for her, and I hope she gets whatever help she needs.
Always Uber if you're drinking.
Yes, 100%. Do not drink and drive. That is, we have seen that. I mean, look, recently, just even the last year or less on Bravo, we've seen Shannon Medore, Karen Huger. I mean, all these DUIs, and it's just always a reminder to Uber if you can't drive.
Yes.
But let's move on to some recaps of the Bravo shows that have aired this past week. So let's start with Vanderpump Rules. So we got part 2 of the reunion aired this week. Now, we did not actively discuss part 1, so I just kind of want it as a whole to compare this year's reunion to last year's, because last year's was so toxic and there was so much screaming and talking over each other. And this year, it's a lot more subdued. There is definitely drama, but it is a lot more talking things out, it seems like, rather than talking over each other and just not hearing anybody. So what do you think about how this year's reunion compares to last year's?
Yeah, I agree about that. I feel like last year's obviously was very fresh with Scandal having just happened, that everyone's emotions were super, super high in that moment. And now, at least we've had this season, we obviously have seen these conversations and things that were happening throughout the season. But now that we're at the reunion, there's been a lot more time since that has happened. And I think the time in that has helped them be more calm in that, which is obviously now we can hear what they're saying, and they can have conversations and actually get to have each other's voices heard more than they were last year. So I'm glad that that's not the case this year.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that this reunion is probably closer to what last year's would have been if they had given them like even just a couple months
Mhm.
to kind of digest what had happened. But because, like you said, it was so fresh, like a full month hadn't even passed. It was the same month that reunion was filmed that Scandival broke. So there was just no time for anyone to really just even digest it. It was the first time they had seen each other, and if really like any of them had seen Tom except Shayna or Ariana, obviously. But yeah, I think everybody that time was just trying to get their word in, and nobody was willing to hear each other out at all, and can't blame them. But I'm glad that this year they're able to have some of kind of the conversations that I think they probably wanted to have a year ago and just couldn't because of the timing. So I do think that this year, while it's maybe not as, you're not going to get as many like iconic moments in quotes, like I think that it feels like you're getting a lot more answers, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
So some of the feuds let's kind of go into that we're seeing on this reunion. Let's start with Katie and Lala. So we ended episode 1 of the reunion with their feud and started episode 2 finishing it out. So the big thing with them was that Lala felt like Katie wasn't being honest in front of the camera with her feelings towards Ariana specifically about issues they were having with the sandwich shop, and her Ariana not telling Katie about going off to do Broadway and leaving them. And there was just a lot of things Lala was accusing Katie of saying, and a phone call that they had and over text. And Katie was basically saying, oh, that she talked it out with Ariana off camera and it wasn't an issue anymore once they started filming. So whose side were you on? What do you think about their feud?
I'm on Team Katie. I feel like the stuff that she was bringing up, like, kind of wasn't really her place, like, for Lala to bring it up, like, wasn't necessarily her place to say those sorts of things. Because if it was Katie's problem with Ariana, then Katie and Ariana would have those talks, and not, like, Lala wouldn't really be involved in it necessarily. Like, I think Lala was kind of just projecting how she was feeling of the whole situation, and not realizing like Katie wasn't really feeling that same way. But like obviously like there were like probably like she did say like about the sandwich shop like minor things, but it wasn't ever like a big thing.
Yeah, I think that Lala has this thing about how everybody not handling things the way that she thinks they should on camera is affecting her livelihood. Like she takes it so personally that, oh, you're not being 100% open about every tiny little like feeling that you have had in the past or not even currently having, that this is going to affect the show's existence, which is my livelihood. And I think that it's such a stretch. Like there's so many steps you have to take to get to that point where it directly affects Lala. And I just think I don't know why all of a sudden this is her big thing that it feels like she has with Katie, with Ariana, with like anyone she's feuding with. It's like, I don't know, get your own storyline. If I don't know, it just I don't quite understand Lala's logic sometimes this season. And yeah, I agree. Like I get parts of what she's saying, but then I could just come back to like, this doesn't directly affect you. So I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
But Lala had another feud this episode, this time with Ariana. So Lala and Ariana had this discussion in part 2 of the reunion where Lala was basically saying that Ariana, comparing her situation with Randall to Ariana's situation with Tom, and saying how Ariana didn't wasn't married, didn't have kids with Tom, and so their situation, that's the big difference in their situations. And the fact that also Ariana's living with Tom still, and Lala immediately moved out. Now, Ariana basically kind of made the distinction between understanding someone's boundaries versus respecting their boundaries. Do you think that was a fair point to make, or whose side were you on with that one?
Yeah, also not on Lala's side there. So Team Ariana again, or opposite side of Lala again. But I feel like that, like what you're saying, like Lala's making everything else like how she would expect her reactions and like what she wants. Like that's not everyone else's feelings and reactions towards things. So Ariana had different boundaries she had set that she was doing, and that she felt that Lala should be respectful of that and not just project her own feelings of that. Like she needs to understand, like Ariana's doing what she wants to do, like let her, and she just got to get out of it, kind of thing. And not feel like it was like Lala was like so offended that she was doing something that like that's not your decision. Like that's what Ariana chose to do. Like yes, they're living in the same house, but like they weren't seeing each other. Like they always were making sure that they weren't gonna be going at the same time in the living room or like all that stuff. Like they were making sure to avoid that. And so like there were those boundaries placed that Ariana felt okay with there. So Lala's point there also made no sense.
Yeah, again, it's like, how does this affect you? Ariana was supportive of you with your boundaries with Randall. I think it would have been totally different if Ariana was kind of in the Tom Schwartz role with Lala back last year when Lala and Randall broke up. If if Ariana was continuing to hang out with Randall and didn't respect those boundaries last time, and then when it happens to Ariana, I would understand if Lala was like, hey, you expect us to have these boundaries, but you didn't respect mine. But she did. And so it's like, okay, you don't understand Ariana's boundaries. That's fine. Like Ariana said, just respect it. Like,
Yeah.
How does it hurt you if Ariana doesn't have one last conversation with Tom Sandoval? Like, sure, that moment would have been great for the finale. I mean, everyone would have been interested to see that. But there was so much else going on this season that her point about it hurting the show, I just don't think holds water when Ariana and Tom had that final conversation last year. What's changed since then? It's going to be the exact same conversation. Like literally word for word, it could be the same conversation. Ariana's feelings haven't changed, and I really don't think Tom's have either. So I just don't get what they all want from her. And it just feels like they used her for their podcasts and publicity when it was the hot topic that was in the news every day. And then as soon as that wore out, last season finished airing and people kind of started to get tired of it, when they couldn't make any money from her, they turned on her. So that's how it feels to me. But I'd be interested to see, now that Lala has seen the backlash, I'd be kind of interested to see if she takes a different perspective on it at all now. But I don't know that we're ever going to hear that from her.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to wait to see what she
Yeah.
says. Also, next week's reunion also is going to be some more drama, so we'll have to unpack that.
Yeah, they're going to watch the last 10 minutes of the finale all together. So,
Yeah.
oh boy, let's strap in for that.
Yeah, we see lots of tears in that preview.
Yeah. But lastly, before we move on to the Valley, let's discuss a little bit about the Katie / Schwartz / Joe of it all. So Joe and Allie joined the reunion in this episode, and we got a lot of conversation about Katie's feelings about Joe and whether she was too hard on her this season, whether Schwartz led Joe on during the season, or whether they were both on the same page about it. What did you think of that whole conversation?
Well, I obviously think Schwartz did lead Joe on a lot of the season. Like we're seeing their different confessionals and how different Joe was reacting to spending time with Schwartz versus Schwartz is like, yeah, like she's cool. Like we hang out, and then Joe's like, oh my gosh, I could marry him one day. Like very much like in it, and Schwartz is just not. So
Yeah.
I felt bad for Joe on that front, and I think Katie, the way that she was treating Joe, wasn't totally fair in certain ways. Like she didn't need to call her a crackhead in her Instagram caption, which she tried to go back
Crackhead
on. Which
energy.
crackhead
Very different.
yeah, we're like, okay, what's the difference there? But I think like maybe she shouldn't use as harsh words towards Joe. Like she can obviously not like Joe, but like outwardly, like in a very public way, like share those feelings maybe isn't the best route for that. But yeah, those are just my initial thoughts.
Yeah, I think what I do like about Katie is that she was willing to say, okay, when I watched it back, I felt a little differently. I did see how Schwartz was leading her on, and maybe that was something that she didn't understand as much at the time when it was happening. And I could see how she wouldn't see that because she and Joe aren't friends. So she's not around Joe and she's not around Joe and Schwartz together. So she's really just hearing it mostly from Schwartz's perspective and the perspective of others who don't like Joe. And so I could see how that then she would maybe get a little bit of an inaccurate representation of how Schwartz was communicating with her at the time and really was kind of telling her what she wanted to hear. And so I like that she was able to come to the reunion and express that. So, some others could take notes from that, I think. But let's move on to the Valley. So we see Janet's baby moon continuing this week. What were your thoughts overall, since we didn't cover last week's episode, of Janet not inviting Kristen, Luke, and Zach to the baby moon trip? Do you think that was warranted, or was it a little petty and too far?
I think it was petty, and especially Zach not getting invited. Like, he's just friends with Kristen. Like, he's not really associated entirely. Like, it's not like yes, Janet and Kristen are having some feud right now, but bringing in Zach to that, like, I felt bad for Zach in that sense that I don't think he deserved that treatment. Also, it was crazy hearing the phone call when he called Janet, and then he's like, "Oh, your spy, a friend." Like he was like literally sitting in the same room. I thought that was funny. But I just think like I didn't know entirely. Also, like with their history, like I didn't realize like Janet and Zach weren't always great friends, or like they're not even to the level of like her considering him like a close friend now that like she didn't feel the need to invite him. But I still feel like it was petty to not invite him, and also with Kristen and Luke too. Like I feel like overall, like how much do you have to hate someone to just not invite them on this kind of group thing that it doesn't even seem like what you were saying, we were talking about this right before, like it's not purposely for just the baby moon. Like this is also like a cast trip that like why are you being so exclusive when it's really just because the show is being filmed and you have to take a trip together pretty much, and then it just happens to be before you're having a baby, so you can call it a baby moon. So yeah. What about you?
Yeah. No, I think that there is more to Janet and Zach's history than we know of. Janet, I'm not sure whether it was on maybe an Instagram Live or something recently, and I don't want to misrepresent what she said, and I don't have it pulled up, so I'm not going to try to quote it exactly, but it was something to the effect of Zach wishing that Zach had said something about like wishing that her baby didn't make it full term or something horrible like that, that before filming started, that is basically like, when they were not friends, like what she was trying to insinuate was that they were not on good terms at all when filming started.
Mm.
And that was, a big part of it. And if that's true, then I completely understand why Janet would not want to invite Zach to this, would not want anything to do with Zach. Like, that would be a terrible thing for him to say. But obviously, we don't know. I don't know Zach if he's responded to that at all, or, what his side of the situation is. But I do think that there's more to it. And this is why I wish we had a reunion for the Valley that allegedly we don't have. So we need to have that to get these questions answered. But anyways, yeah, I think just, kind of to on the flip side of that, I do hate when people try to cast the show by not inviting people on cast trips, especially. It's one thing to not invite them to like one event, but to not invite them to a whole cast trip that's like at least 2 episodes worth of content, you're basically cutting them out of 2 episodes of the show and forcing them to like film some boring scene back in LA. So I always just hate that, and I don't ever understand why producers even allow them to have that much control, because it doesn't work, and then it makes the show worse, and nothing has been that serious, that horrible. It's season 1. It's not even like Vanderpump Rules. Like Vanderpump Rules, I get it. That was an extreme situation, but The Valley, we're on season 1. Nothing that horrible has happened. Just bring everybody on the cast trip.
Yeah.
Now, something else we got in this episode was Jax telling Michelle that Kristen was saying that Michelle was texting a celebrity, unnamed celebrity, on the side while she's married to Jesse. Now, sending sexy pictures specifically to this person. Do you believe this to be true, or do you believe Michelle's explanation that it was all work related?
I want to believe Michelle's explanation. I feel like we can't really trust Jax, and sometimes I don't know if I can totally trust Michelle. But in this sense, I feel like she is telling the truth, and that they were for work, and that like they weren't actually. She wasn't sending like sexy pictures. Maybe she was sending a picture of her in the kitchen, but like that wasn't like a sexy picture. But like that it was taken to like another level. I don't even know what pictures or what she was saying to them, or to this guy. I think that if Jesse understood the situation, that like he wasn't upset by it, then it was probably nothing to be worried about. But definitely interesting that they had that conversation, and Jax was just portraying what he thought about the situation, but obviously he wasn't in it. So I want to believe Michelle in this.
Yeah, I'm not even sure like what I believe about what the texts, how innocent or not the texts were. But I just hate that they're blaming Kristen for all of this again when it's Jax that keeps bringing it up. Like it's all roads lead back to Jax with this, not Kristen. And that bothers me, that I feel like it's just so easy to blame her, especially because she's not on the trip to defend herself. And so that's another reason why I hate that she's not there, because she would have been able to maybe clear things up a little bit. And because she's not, they're just so easily able to blame her and get away with it. So that's the part of that that all really bothered me from that part of the episode. But the gist of the episode, the main meat of this episode, was Jax versus Brittany, about Brittany's drinking or lack thereof and sickness. Whose side were you on with that? Do you think that Jax was being too hard on Brittany, or should Brittany stop drinking if it keeps affecting her like that?
I'm very much team Brittany on this. I feel like Jax is just thinking about himself and doesn't think about others at any time. And that this is another example of him being like, he's annoyed that Brittany is throwing up, even though Brittany is the one that's sick and she's not even drinking in this moment. Like he's accusing her of something that she's not even doing. But then he's like, oh, but it's making you feel bad. Like not in that exact moment, it's not making her feel bad. And so I don't know. It's just Jax just annoys me. And obviously now we know they've separated. So that makes me feel better that she's free from him. But in this moment, she's like still trying to defend him or like be nice to him. And I'm like, why? Like, why do you still like him? She deserves so much better. So very much team Brittany here, and hope that she feels better now not being with Jax.
I'm sure she does. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I could understand where Jax would assume it was Brittany drinking if this has happened in the past. Like if this is a pattern of her drinking a lot and getting sick, then I could understand why that would be his first thought. But to bring it up in front of everybody and just embarrass her in that way when she's not even in the room, that just felt so gross to me. And I totally agreed with Brittany that when she came out of the room and was like, you're trying to embarrass me in front of everybody, and everybody's defending me, and you're just not hearing them. Like, you're not allowing that to be the answer when they're all telling you that she didn't drink very much and that that wasn't why she was sick. So that, it was just, that felt really gross of Jax. And I do think that they 100%, well, they needed therapy. They're not together anymore, so I guess they don't need therapy now, unless they want to get back together. But yeah, I mean, I think that it probably was a lot of stress too that was putting her through, or that she just felt from that relationship. And I think that that was probably a big part of why she kept getting sick. I do think that that's probably very true what Jasmine said. So
Yeah.
it was sad to see, but glad to know that they are now have gone their separate ways. So let's move on to Summer House, and let's really break this down, I think, with the three big relationships that we have on that show. So let's start with West and Sierra. So it seems like they were kind of on different pages with each other as of late, that Sierra wants to make things more serious, and West is a little bit afraid of that. What do you think? Do you think that they can get on the same page? Do you think that they're still together now? We really don't know. That's probably the best kept secret on Bravo right now, is whether they are still together. So what do you think?
Yeah, I really want to root for Wes and Sierra, but I really don't think that they're still together. I think that Sierra is ready for something more serious and Wes is not. And I think if the guy is not, this is like experiences that I've had too. Whenever the guy is not ready, he's not ready. Like, he's not going to change that like in the blink of an eye. Like, he's going to take a long time to feel like he's going to be ready. And you don't want to get into something if someone doesn't feel ready from the beginning, in my opinion. Like, he's like obviously liking Sierra a lot, but I don't know if he's gonna be able to like fully cut off all these other girls he's talking to and want to commit 100%. Like, I just don't see that happening, which is sad because like I really wanted to root for them, but I don't see them getting on the same page on that.
I agree. I think here's my best guess as to their status right now. I think they are not officially together, but I think they're on really good terms. So my guess is that maybe this summer they will, if they're both single, maybe give it a try. Maybe a year has passed and they've been able to kind of think about it and figure out what they want, and then maybe they can give it another shot a year later. And maybe West will be ready at that point and feel more confident in that he knows her better and that they can have a more healthy, serious, exclusive relationship. So that's my hope, but I don't know anything at all. So we will see their status at the reunion coming up in just a couple of weeks. Now, let's move on to Lindsay and Carl. So we've talked, ad nauseum about the relationship at the beginning of the season, but the last few weeks, it's been a little while since we've talked about Summer House. So have the last few weeks changed your opinion at all in terms of Team Lindsay or Team Carl?
I guess slightly. I feel like a little bit I am more towards Team Lindsay a little bit nowadays than I was in the beginning of the season. But overall, because seeing like Carl's conversations and then the way he acts about certain things and things that they're having, like when they're having real conversations, like when he was bringing up his job and like wanting to work on, work with the other boy again, like work with Kyle, that Lindsay was asking him questions and then Carl took it like offensively, being like, why aren't you supporting me? But her asking him the questions was like her just like caring more about understanding why he was passionate about it or like what he wanted to do with it. And then Carl misinterpreted that and like being like, oh my gosh, she's attacking me and like not supporting anything that I want to do. So I think that their communication just is like very much just not in sync with each other, and that like what Carl was saying he wants like isn't what Lindsay is, which like he wants someone who's going to be more soft and just like agreeing and wanting that more just like easygoing personality, which obviously was not Lindsay. So I mean, we know they've broken up now, but like I think in that, like seeing the back, like definitely shows like why like they're not meant to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that they are just completely incompatible.
Mhm.
And they're not what the other is looking for. Yeah, I think Lindsay needs someone who's more motivated and has a good job where, you know, kind of, I think she's kind of maybe looking for someone with more of like a regular 9 to 5 job and not someone like Carl who works a lover boy, stopped working, goes back, kind of, you know, is a little more loosey goosey with his employment status. And Carl needs someone, like you said, yeah, who's not as direct as Lindsay, not as honest, I guess I could say. Like, I don't know, someone who's a little bit more like just supportive at all times and not going to tell him, no, I don't think you should open up a non-alcoholic bar or whatever his ideas. Like, I think he needs someone who's just kind of his cheerleader,
Mhm.
basically. And that's not ever going to be Lindsay. So I agree with you. I think that I have more and more gone to Team Lindsay as the weeks have gone on, just because I don't think that he's been straight up and honest with her about how he's feeling throughout this. And I can see now how she did feel blindsided by a breakup. Now, I will still maintain the fact that I can't imagine how she said they had a good summer, but up until that point, and she was totally blindsided, that doesn't exactly jive with me. But I could see how after the fact that he has been really not straight up with her the last few weeks, how she would be completely blindsided by the fact that he would just want to break up. So I think we're getting closer to that point now that we will see that breakup. So I'm really excited for that. But let's move on to Amanda and Kyle. So the last couple weeks have been rough for their relationship. Amanda has expressed interest in pursuing her dreams of potentially designing bathing suits or having some sort of job outside of Loverboy for herself. Do you think that Kyle should be more supportive of that, or do you understand how he's saying, you know, Loverboy's not in a great place right now, and we need her, he needs her to be there full time and not be distracted by anything else?
I think Kyle should be more supportive. Also, seeing his conversation with Paige and Sierra, obviously, like that was also like I was very much on their side and that, like not on Kyle's side. Like Kyle just thinking about himself and being selfish, and that like if he really wants Loverboy to succeed, like he also needs to put in effort in that. Like it's not just Amanda adding her expertise or like whatever's going on. Like that also had to do with him, and I think he was just in a place where he was scared because the business wasn't doing so well that like allowing her to do something else, or not even allow, but like seeing her do something else like scared him in the sense that like then she really wouldn't be able to help in the Loverboy business as much as he was hoping. But I think that he'll come around to it and like will support Amanda and what she wants to do, and hopefully they're still like I feel like they're gonna get over it. They kind of made up a little bit already, so hopefully Kyle did realize that like he was saying like stuff that wasn't really how he like really meant it to come across. He was just in the moment feeling scared about it.
Yeah, I think unlike Lindsay and Carl, I do think that Amanda and Kyle are compatible. And I do
Yeah.
think that they should stay together. I mean, look, I don't know the ins and outs of their relationships outside of the show, but I do think that from what we see, yes, Kyle needs to stop blowing up on her and drinking so much and just saying things that he then regrets later. That's a big problem for their relationship. But I think that they can work through those issues. And Amanda, I do think that he needs to be more supportive of Amanda and just allow her to, you know, have this on the side. It's not going to be her main source of income. She's not expressing that she wants to leave Loverboy. She
Yeah.
just doesn't want that to be the only thing she's known for. Because she feels like she's just Kyle's girlfriend. Kyle's wife, Kyle's fiance, whatever, at the time that she was always associated with Kyle because Kyle was the main cast member on season 1, and Amanda was just, at that time, she wasn't her actual cast member on the show. She was just Kyle's girlfriend, and I think that label has kind of just stuck with her throughout the years, even though it's going on 7 years now that she's been her own person, her own main cast member on this show. But for whatever reason, I think she just has never been able to quite escape that. And that is starting, I think, to get to her a little bit. And she feels like, I need something for myself outside of just having this business with Kyle where I'm not respected as an equal necessarily in this. And she wants to have something that's hers. And I think that Kyle should 100% be supportive of that and figure out a way for her to be able to do that and remain at Loverboy.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's move on to the competition chat now, Molly.
Yes. So we got a season 7 mole premiere date on June 28th is when it's coming out. Michael, I know you're a big fan of the mole.
I am. I love the mole. It's one of my favorite concepts of competition reality TV. It's just such a smart show. So basically, for anyone who doesn't know, The Mole is a competition show where a group of contestants all compete in these missions every week, and one person is trying to sabotage those missions. So somebody has knowledge of what the missions will be before they happen. They talk with producers every week, and they're finding ways to try to sabotage so that the players don't win money during the mission. So each mission advances their prize pot, adds money to the prize at the end that the winner will get. But the mole cannot be eliminated from the game. They cannot win the grand prize at the end. They have their own separate grand prize that they're competing for if they end up making it to the end, and they make it to the end undiscovered, basically.
Oh.
So it's a really, really good show, and it's one of those shows that you can really interact with because it's not like The Traitors. You don't know who the mole is as you're watching, but there's little tiny clues throughout where it's like, I would never know any of them. Like they say they have it at the end where they go back and show you where all the clues were, and all of them are like, the coordinates of where this person was standing were the same coordinates or like backwards coordinates of the mole's house, or like, it's something so insane. Like we're on the wall, an arrow is pointing at the mole or something, like a little arrow that was written on the brick wall or whatever. Like it's something like so tiny that you would have to pause every 3 seconds to find it. But I will always continually try to find it when I watch, knowing that I never will. But it's a really, really fun show. It's on Netflix, June 28th. The first batch of episodes come out. I think it's a maybe 3-week drop, similar to The Circle. So really excited for that. We will definitely be covering that.
Yes, I'm excited for that. Lastly, in our competition chat, let's chat about Survivor this past week. We saw another elimination with someone leaving with an idol in their pocket, which is crazy. 4 in a row this season. And so Q was eliminated after he found the idol and did not play it, which obviously I felt like they were leading up to that. Like, because of what's happened in recent episodes, like, I was like, there's no way that he doesn't use this, but then, like, he didn't. So then obviously he went home. So what are your thoughts on why no one is playing their idols this season?
I don't know. I think it has to just do something with, I don't know if it's ego or if it's just something where I think everyone feels like, okay, I can get past this 1 week, then I'll use it next time. But I just want to be able to have it and not have that paranoia of not knowing who has it. I don't know. I think it's just something where they are able to convince themselves that they're going to be safe that week. And I don't know how they are able to do that with this late in the game, and I don't know. It's wild, but it's been crazy. Yeah, 4 in a row, 5 throughout the season. I would have never ever guessed that we would have a season with that many idols going unused. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah, and we also saw just the beginnings of the conversations of like Charlie and Maria kind of going at each other, and so now we also saw that Charlie got 2 votes, which I feel like this week we're gonna see them talking about that because is Maria gonna own up to it that she was going for Charlie, and then is Charlie gonna be able to get Maria this week? I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but we're in the final 5 now. So, who are you thinking is most likely to win?
I think my guess is Kenzie. I think that it's between Kenzie and Charlie in my mind, but I
Mhm.
do think that probably I'm going to go with Kenzie just based on her edit throughout the season. I think that Kenzie has a little bit of an edge, but I would also not at all be upset with the Charlie win. So my bet is on one of those two.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially if Charlie is able to get out Maria and like use that as like a big like resume boost, like he has a chance there. But I do think the way that Kenzie has been edited and throughout the season, like she's been doing really well, like building alliances with people and all that stuff. Like I feel like she has a lot of people who like her. So I feel like she also has a good chance at winning.
Yeah. But we will
So
see. I'm super excited for the finale this week. It's coming right
I
up.
know. I know, it's crazy. The season has gone by so quickly, I feel
I
like.
also want to mention that I really loved how they showed all the votes in the
Yeah.
last week with Q's exit. I thought that was such a brilliant way that they edited that because there was still so much suspense over whether he was going to play his idol. But you
Mhm.
knew all of the votes beforehand, so you knew that it was going to be him if he didn't. And I really really liked that editing choice. It was, I believe, the first time they've done that since season 16, which we're on 40, what are we on, 46 right now?
Right.
Yeah, 46. So it's been literally 30 seasons since the last time they did that, with
Wow.
Eric Reichenbach famously giving away his immunity necklace to Natalie Bolton and being blindsided. So that was, yeah, I really liked that.
Yeah, no, I like that too because then we knew that he was going home if he didn't play it, and then he
Yeah.
didn't play it, so it was obvious. But what are you most looking forward to this week in the shows coming up?
I think the Survivor finale, that's the big one. Also, of course, the Vanderpump Rules part 3 of the reunion, with showing the last 10 minutes of the finale to everybody and seeing their reactions to that. But I think the one, if I had to pick one, it's Survivor this week.
Yes, same here. Well, thanks so much for listening, everyone. And we'll be sure to chat with y'all next week. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Chat Reality. And subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. We would love to have more subscribers. So thanks so much for listening. And we'll chat with y'all soon.